Welcome to Family Health by Mini First Aid. Mini First Aid are the UK's leading family first aid provider, and we are delighted to bring our latest podcast series to you, giving you all the information that you need around family health subjects. Thanks for joining. Welcome to the Family Health Podcast. This podcast is brought to you by Unity Mutual, a trusted partner for your savings and investments and partner that understands your commitment to your child's health and financial future. When you choose Unity Mutual for a junior individual savings account, you secure your child's savings journey and receive a free mini first aid class. But it's not just about caring for their health, it's also about setting them up for a brighter future. Unity Mutual believes in enriching lives beyond pounds and pence, empowering you with both financial stability and life-enhancing opportunities. Let's dive in. Hello, I'm Kate and I'm the founder of Mini First Aid, and welcome to our podcast, Family Health by Mini First Aid. We are absolutely thrilled that you've decided to join us again for Series 2 of our podcast, where we will continue to bring you top family health advice from leading experts. So without further ado, I am absolutely delighted to introduce our guest today. We have been waiting to speak to Katrina Phillips, OBE, who is the Chief Executive of the Children's Accident Prevention Trust, and Hollie Phillips, whose son Ralphie was hospitalised after swallowing a button battery. Ladies, I have so many questions for you in this half an hour space. I hope you're ready, but welcome to you both.
Hello, thank you.
Hello.
Ladies, I'd like, first of all, to just find out a little bit more about yourself. So, Katrina, first of all, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about the work of CAPT.
So, I'm the Chief Executive of the Child Accident Prevention Trust, and we're a charity that works across the UK. Basically, we want to stop children dying or being seriously injured in accidents that are preventable. And I'm also a member of the Ministerial Working Group on button battery safety, and I'm leading the educational work on button batteries, which is why it's so brilliant that you're doing this podcast.
Brilliant. And I think just to sort of shed some light on this is that Mini First Aid historically teaches all about the treatment of an accident after it's happened. And I think for the last few years particularly, we've been saying, wouldn't it be great if we could really be as well as involved in the treatment of, but let's really start flying the flag for preventing accidents. So it's great, Katrina, that you've come on to chat to us. Hollie, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm Hollie, I'm a mum of two. I have worked in childcare for over 15 years now, so I've done all my first aid, I've done everything you can possibly do with children and be a mum. So just over 2 years ago, it was the day before my son's second birthday, and he became very poorly very, very quickly. And the next thing I know, we're being transferred across the country to a major trauma centre and being told my 1-year-old son, because he had literally just turned 1, was dying because he had swallowed a button battery, and if it wasn't removed then he would pretty much die within the next couple of hours. It was very traumatic, very intense. I went from having, you know, a fully weaned 1-year-old and getting ready for this birthday party to not knowing if I was going to ever plan my son's party again or if I was going to be planning his funeral. So obviously it was very traumatic, and then once, you know, he came out of it and he was in recovery, I realised I can't sit around crying. I can't let this ever happen to anybody else again. I have a voice, he doesn't. I've got to use mine to ensure that I can do what I can to prevent this ever happening to any other family or child.
Hollie, I have got so much admiration for what you are doing. I have also been holding my breath while you were telling us that, because I think your story is captivating, and I know it's not a story that any parent ever wants to have to tell, but I think the fact that you're using it for education purposes is absolutely brilliant. I've got loads of questions for you, so brace yourself. I've got loads of questions. But just to go back to you, Katrina, because the Child Accident Prevention Trust why was it created, and what really are your aims for that? I know you've talked about sort of preventing accidents from happening, but why was it created in the first place? Was there a gap or a necessity for this?
It's really fascinating, Kate, what you were saying about mini first aid and thinking, we don't just want to be involved in the treatment, we want to be involved in prevention too. Because over 40 years ago, there were 2 NHS consultants, and they found that they were treating the same serious injuries to children over and over again. And sometimes they had to give that news that no parent ever wants to hear from a doctor, like Hollie learning that her son might not survive the next few hours. They thought there has to be a way to prevent this, and that's how our charity was born, out of that sense of we've got to do something. So, since then, our mission is learn everything we can, share what we know with parents and with people who support parents in their local communities, and also, particularly in terms of products, stuff like button batteries, working with manufacturers, with retailers, with government, so that products are safer, so that actually, children can play, do all the things they do, curiosity, sticking stuff in their mouths, and actually the world around them is safe.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Now, these I'm absolutely confident that every parent out there listening today or carer knows what a button battery is, but let's not make that assumption right now. Can you just tell me what a button battery is, just in case anyone's not 100% sure?
Yeah. Really good question. So I'm going to ask you to picture small, round, silver-coloured, thin, really quite like a 5p coin. Those are the really dangerous ones. You also get smaller, plumper ones. Generally they pass through, but sometimes they don't, and there's been a death involving one. So it's those small, round, silver-coloured batteries, and you're going to find you have them everywhere.
I'm thinking of so many things that they sit in my home. And Hollie, I'm keen to ask you some questions about Ralphie. He was only 1 when he had his accident, wasn't he? What was he like when he was 1?
He was your typical 1-year-old. So he had just had open heart surgery 6 months prior. So he was already this hurricane of a child who came into our lives, and it was all went from having a very healthy newborn to being told that our son is going to have open heart surgery. So we were quite familiar with hospitals and things like that, but we thought that's it, we've been through the worst a parent can be through, heart failure, it doesn't get any worse than that. And obviously Ralphie is second child, he has second child syndrome, so everything goes in his mouth. He was just chaos, but he's amazing. And he used to have this habit of just putting things around the house and then going back to them. Cheerios, perfect example. He used to hide Cheerios everywhere. So when I saw him swallow something, I thought Ralphie's picked up a stale Cheerio, because he kind of went like that, and I thought, oh, he's done it again. And it was about 20 minutes later, he then became very, very poorly very quickly. And something in my gut just thought, something's really not right here. Whatever he ate, it's really not agreed with him. And then I started thinking, oh my God, is it his heart? Is there something wrong with his heart? All these things start racing through your mind. But because, again, I know first aid, I know childcare, I know the danger of the button batteries, it never once came into my mind it was going to be a button battery, because I knew the dangers. I didn't have them in my house, or so I thought, and it just so happened it was one.
So, Hollie, you said that you when he first swallowed something and you thought he'd swallowed a stale Cheerio, and let's all be frank, if you came to do a quick check in my house, you would find many a stale Cheerio on my floor. It's like a sport in our house, yes. The children throwing them and then picking them up and enjoying them a couple of days later, so we're all guilty of it.
Yes.
But what were those early warning signs then that something, you said he looked suddenly very ill. What were you seeing? So tell our listeners, what were you seeing in how he was different?
So I was in the bedroom wrapping up his birthday presents because it literally was the day before his birthday. And all of a sudden I heard like this piercing scream, and I thought, this can't be separation anxiety still, because he's a year old, like he's been around other people. So I went in, I tried to give him his bottle, we had family round, and everyone gave me oh, he's teething, don't worry, he's just being dramatic. And he was really dribbling, more than normal. And I was like, oh, his back teeth must be coming through. And I was like, no, I had a feel, wasn't them. He was pushing his bottle away. And this is when I started thinking it was his heart again, because this is what he done when he had open heart surgery. He couldn't drink, they push it away. And I was like, oh, something's really not right. Then he just changed colour, like a pale grey colour. And I was like, well, I don't know what's happening to my son. So I phoned 999, and he just projectile vomited like this, the strongest smelling acidy sick you can imagine. But it wasn't like a poorly sick, it was black with blood, and it was just the strangest sick I've ever seen. And I just thought something's really, really not right here. But it was the excess dribbling, arching of the back, changing colour, refusal of food, drink, obviously the sick, and the smell that was just coming out from his mouth. It just smelled like chlorine. That's how I can describe it, like chlorine. Like, just not symptoms of a child being poorly sick. It was like, there's something really wrong with my child.
So you'd called 999, and did you have an ambulance attend, or did you have to take him to hospital? What happened?
So they were really, really busy. So they called me back and they said that we can't get you for another 2 hours because of his history. We'd really like you to take him to hospital. I said, that's fine. I can take him myself. I'll take him to the nearest one with an x-ray. So it's not an accident emergency. It was just an urgent care. I went through all his history, what had happened, and they just went, oh yeah, he swallowed something sharp. That's what the dried blood is, and that's why it's coming out black, because it's just dried blood. And obviously you take their word for it. These are doctors, they've done this a long time, you trust them. And I trusted them and believed them, and they just said, give him some Calpol, go home, he'll be fine. So that's what we done. Took him home, carried on our day, and then as the evening went on, I was at work, and I came back, because again, I just had something in my gut that was going, something's really not right, Holly, you need to get home and see him. And as I picked him up, his dad said he hasn't been sick, he's been fine, not himself. And then it was just this almighty, like an exorcism sick, like it was just constant, but at this point it was just pure black. So another ambulance came, and they were like, yeah, there's something really not right with this child, let's get him straight to A&E. We got to A&E, and then they started realising, okay, there's something really not right with this child. They tried metal detectors, and then it was a urgent x-ray. And then they went to me, when he had open heart surgery, was anything left behind? And I said, not that I'm aware of. And he has a little ring here from his scar. And right where the ring is, there was just this circle. There was just this circle, and it matched perfectly to where this scar was. And I was thinking, all these things start running through your head, but you're never once thinking it's a button battery, because again, why would it happen to me? It wouldn't. And then there was a lot of back and forth for a few hours, and the next thing I know, we're being transferred to a major trauma centre. But between the times of going to the 2 hospitals local to us, I had no idea it was a button battery until we got to Addenbrooke's in Cambridgeshire, and they told me it was a button battery. So so it was a shock.
Katrina at this point, because Katrina, I bet now, Katrina, I just want to ask you, with what you know and your knowledge of button batteries, what is this button battery doing to little Ralphie's insides, and why is it making his vomit turn black? What's happening?
Right. So you can imagine a button battery. It's got this electrical charge. A small child swallows it, and it gets stuck in their food pipe, and that electrical charge starts reacting with the fluids inside the body, and it's basically creating the equivalent of caustic soda inside the body. So you imagine your toddler takes a sip of drain cleaner, it's the equivalent, and it starts eating through the flesh. Depending on how powerful the button battery is, it can take a while or it can be really quick. And that's what's happening, that it starts burning through the flesh. And if it burns through and it then hits the main artery, that's when children die.
Oh my gosh. I've got my hand, you can't all necessarily see me unless you're watching our podcast on YouTube, but I've got my hand across my mouth because I am so shocked, because the thought of a child drinking drain cleaner, obviously we know lots about keeping caps on things and stuff, but you just think, well, that would never happen, or, you know, and you think about how abrasive it is, but just to think of that battery, Hollie, and your little darling boy, and this happening. So once Adam Brooks realised that he had swallowed this button battery, they'd identified it was a button battery. He's being very sick, and it's black.
Yeah.
Once they realised what it was, what was the cause of treatment? How do they get it out?
We literally went from 0 to 100. So by the time we came up from the X-ray, because Adam Brooks is one of the biggest hospitals, I think, in the country, if not in Europe, it takes a long time to get up from one department to another. So by the time we got back up, there was just a room full of surgeons, and it wasn't a case of, there was no preparation for his surgery. It was, you need to go down to theatre now. They didn't even put him in the bed. They said, just hold him in your arms. I wasn't running with him, but it was very intense that your son has to go into surgery now, because his eyes were rolling back at this point. He was really deteriorating. And at this point, I started to realise this is life or death. I don't know if I'm ever going to see my son again. And there was no pre-op, there was no kind of, you know, if you've ever gone into surgery, you take them down into a little room, they give them, you know, the sedation. This was literally just put him on the operating table and it was go. And I was just left in this hospital across the country where I'd never been. I had no family, no one around me because it was still COVID times. I had no phone. We literally just had the clothes on our back. And I just remember thinking, oh my God, my son is going to die. My son is going to die, because 3 months prior to this, I remember the Harper story. So if no one's aware, Harper is a little girl who sadly passed away in May 2021. She was 2 years old. So this is all that I was thinking of, is this poor little girl. And I thought, oh my God, this is going to happen to us. And I just kept thinking, my son's going to die. He is not going to see his first birthday, and I'm never going to see him again. And it was just,
oh my
even
goodness.
even now, I can talk about it absolutely fine, but sometimes when you think about it, you think, I can't believe we went through that. I can't believe that happened to us. Like, how did that happen to us? It shouldn't have, because I know the dangers. And all I kept thinking was, what about the people who don't know the dangers? What about them? How many times is this happening to people? All these things, these irrational thoughts that you would never even imagine you would have. And I think it was literally after 5 days, I was like, I have to do something about this. I cannot let this happen to anybody else.
Hollie, the operation was a success.
Yeah.
What was the recovery time like? What happened? How did Ralphie recuperate?
So he spent his first birthday on life support. And just like his open heart surgery, he recovered miraculously. Like, within 24 hours, he was off life support. He was back on a normal ward. He was very, very swollen. Obviously, all the chemicals in his body, he was having, there was drains coming out of him. There was tubes. And I think I was in a state of delusion. I don't know. But for some reason in my head, I thought we would be home by the weekend. And it was 3 weeks we were in hospital for. So it was 17, 18 days, but it was the 3 Fridays in a row being fed for a tube. So I learnt to become NG tube trained. I became a whole different medical mum than what I ever imagined I would be. Because again, when you go from open heart surgery, it's planned, you know what's coming. A button battery recovery is a completely different scenario, because he was having to have fluoroscopy. I can never say it. but we were having to go for them every couple of days. Then after that, it was surgery every 4 weeks to reconstruct his esophagus. It wasn't a straightforward recovery. It was only last year, I think, he got discharged from Addenbrooke's. But he is absolutely a healthy, happy 3-year-old now. But that first year after the button battery, it changed our lives forever. Because we went from having a fully weaned 1-year-old...
Oh, sure.
to feeding our 1-year-old through a tube, and he can't understand why he was given food, and then all of a sudden he can't, because he physically cannot eat food.
Yeah. Has he got any lasting effects from the surgery and the reconstruction?
Nope, he is absolutely fine. So he is a miracle. It's not that he should have died, but when it's on paper and you look at the facts and you look at the research, the amount of time it was in him, the damage it caused to him, I don't know how, I don't know who was looking out for him. He must have some purpose in life to be here, because when you see it on paper and you see, the pictures, and you see him in hospital and you read the medical reports, you think, how did this child survive? It was in him 24 hours. At that point, Harper Lee died within a few hours.
Gosh. Hollie, did you ever get to the bottom of where the button battery might have come from?
So the only place we can work out it came from is I had a box of toys from my oldest son, so 5-6 years ago, when no one really knew the dangers of button batteries, because we didn't have any new toys bought with them, we didn't have them in the house. The only thing we can think of is when I was getting them out for his first birthday, one of them must have fell out, because we later found out the battery was actually dead. It had no charge to it, and that is the only reason they think that he survived.
Wow. So that's the thing, I think, from what Katrina was saying about these button batteries being the size that they are and the fact that they're everywhere. I mean, it's scary stuff, isn't it? So we need to think about the prevention and the work that Hollie, you're doing as an ambassador, and Katrina, the work of the charity. Let's just talk then for parents that think, okay, I'm going to look at toys. Is there things that parents and carers can do as a prevention to prevent these button batteries getting out of toys? What should they be looking for? Are there extra measures that we can take?
So,
Katrina, I'll ask you first.
I suppose I'd say toys should be safe. There's a toy safety standard. It should mean that you buy toys where the button batteries don't fall out, where it isn't easy for a child to get to them. But actually, can you buy cheap toys that have got easy access button batteries, toys where the box comes with the spare button battery? Yeah, of course you can. You've probably got some at home. And the thing is, it isn't just toys, and I think this is the thing that parents and carers find so shocking. They might know about the dangers, but they think it's okay, all my kids' toys are safe, I've checked their toys. But then it's like, yeah, okay, but what about that small remote control for the light in your child's bedroom? What about the digital thermometer? What about your car keys that you might give your baby to play with to distract them, or your key finders? Then it's like kitchen and bathroom scales, it's fitness trackers, it's 3D glasses, it's tea lights, it's musical greeting cards, all the sort of light up novelties that you get for, like, Halloween and bonfire night and Christmas. So you start looking and it's like, oh my goodness, they've got light up wellies, and those are powered by button batteries, and my kid can get to them.
They're in Christmas
So
jumpers.
it
That's another one.
Yeah. I mean,
Jumpers.
Christmas tutus. We were talking about it in the team earlier. Someone said, oh, we went to a pumpkin farm last year, and they had all of these sort of pumpkins that were lit up with tea lights, and the tea lights had accessible button batteries.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Because I guess that's this whole point, isn't it? Is that you're not thinking, if it's a toy and it's a current new toy, then you're thinking it's got the toy safety standard, it's got the little screw in the back. We talk about that in our home safety classes to look for. It's everything else. And my eyes are getting bigger and bigger as I'm listening to this, because I'm thinking at home already about things that even I, as a first aid expert, I'm thinking, I think this stuff is still accessible at home. I'm going home straight away afterwards to look. But Hollie, I'm interested just to go back to the symptoms, because I think it's really important that there will always be this situation where accidents happen, right? We want to prevent them, but sometimes accidents happen. And Hollie, you talked about some of the symptoms. So I'm first keen to hear from you about, just to remind us of those symptoms you saw. And then for Katrina, if you then add any extra symptoms that we might need to look for if we suspect a button battery. Hollie, just take us back to the symptoms that Ralphie had. Just run them off for us, the symptoms he had.
Yeah. So it was the excess dribbling, not like a normal teething dribbling, like it is constant, like as if they've got water falling out of their mouth. You know when you give them a bottle of water and they just go like that. Or something you think, that's not a teething dribble, that's just irritability. So arching off the back, trying to grab to their stomach, maybe pulling at their chest, refusal of any food, water, drink, changing colour of the skin, that was another one. Obviously the vomit, the acidy smell coming out of his mouth, and just your gut instinct of as a mother. I say this so much, because if I didn't listen to my gut instinct, Ralphie would not be here today. So I always say that your motherly instinct is better than any PhD, and that's not, you know, to say
Huge.
The NHS doctors aren't doing their job. It's just to say, you're the mother, you gave birth to them, you know them better than anybody else. Go with that gut instinct. Even if you feel like you're wasting their time, you might well be, and in a way you want to be wasting their time, because nobody wants this, but just go get it checked out. Because sometimes children don't show any symptoms. Harper Lee didn't show any symptoms until it was too late.
Okay. Wow. And Katrina, are there any other symptoms? Hollie's given a really good list there. Is there anything else that you would add that
I
you
think
see as
it
symptoms?
is go if you think something's wrong, because it isn't always immediate. Like, we know of a case, a little girl who died, and it took a few weeks.
Wow.
And she was off colour, she was clingy, drooly, dribbly, she was off her food, she was sort of pointing to her throat or her chest, she never got to the throwing up. So it is, if you think your child has swallowed a button battery, take them to A&E straight away, or call for an ambulance. Trust your instincts, because you know your child best. Don't let them eat or drink. Don't make them be sick if they're not being sick, because, there's all this caustic stuff inside. You don't want to cause more damage. But it is, you know your child. Get them to hospital if you think there's a chance. And we've spoken to, A&E consultants who are absolutely rushed off their feet in the NHS. They say, if you think your child swallowed a button battery, bring them in. I want to see them.
Sure. You're not wasting their time.
No, you're absolutely not wasting their time.
Mm-hmm. And I think, Hollie, what you said about that gut instinct, there is something intuitive about knowing, and in fact a very good medical professional now will say to you, is this normal for your baby or child? Is this how they normally behave? Because you know them better than anybody.
Yeah.
Katrina, to have Hollie as an ambassador for your organisation, must really bring to life the experiences and the messaging that you're trying to convey. Has it been, having parent ambassadors, has that helped the work of the Child Accident Prevention Trust?
Absolutely, because when you hear stories like Hollie's, it brings it to life. It brings the dangers to life. It paints a picture in a way that nothing else can. And we all sit there and we think, oh my goodness, this can happen to anyone. This can happen to me. This can happen to the most careful parent, like Hollie, who knew what the dangers were, who thought she didn't have any button batteries in her house. So I think it really brings those dangers to life. What Hollie does, and Hollie's courage in revisiting one of the worst moments for her family, because she wants to get that message out so other families don't have to go through what hers did. It's priceless. We just can't thank Hollie enough.
And Hollie, that's ditto from us as well, because you can't underestimate for a parent and as a mum to have to rake over this emotional experience for you over and over again. So every time you tell your story, and you do it so passionately, it's opening the emotion, isn't it? Is there, Hollie, for you, anything particular that you'd want somebody listening today to take away from what you and Katrina have said?
Again, it's the whole gut instinct, whether you're a mum, you're a dad, you're a grandma, anyone. It doesn't mean you have to be related to that child or that person, you know. Button batteries aren't just exempt to children. It could be, you know, children with special needs. It could be adults with special needs. It's looking at such a wide spectrum of it. You know, there's so many people that are still unaware of the dangers. You know, there's people who don't speak English as a first language. They might have no idea. There's people who don't use social media. There's still so many people we need to reach to. And I'm so passionate about it because I just think it's so preventable. And yes, it did happen to me, and I'm someone who knows all the dangers. But I think until we're doing everything we can, you know, using social media, going to schools, nurseries, parents, first aid training, there's still such a hard area to cover of people that don't know. And I'm so passionate about making sure that I will not rest until every single household in the UK minimum is aware of the dangers. And it is just going on your gut instinct and knowing the symptoms, because I think people think, you know, oh, if I see my child swallow a button battery, I'll give them honey. And it's like, no, it doesn't even, sometimes it might not happen like that. It might not happen in front of you. Your child might not tell you. There's so many different scenarios, cases, and there's a lot of false information out at the moment as well, which I'm really trying to crack down on. It's so hard because obviously I work full time, I'm a mum of 2 kids, and button batteries I'm so passionate about. So I can't just do this on my own. Obviously I have the amazing help of the Children Accident Prevention Trust and so many other people, but it's like we need to work together as mothers, as practitioners, as schools, all together, because we all know the dangers of like bleach, cords on blinds, things like that, but we need button batteries to be told. You know, when you take your child home and they say, oh, you know, don't have bleach lying around, we need them to be doing that with button batteries, and we need to be making sure that the communities that aren't aware are being made aware. And I feel like we need more statistics in it, because again, it's a rare thing that happens, but too many children have died for my liking, and too many children have been injured. And I know it is preventable, but at the same time, we need to be making sure that people know what to do if their children do swallow a button battery. What do you wait at home for an ambulance? Do you wait for it to pass? There's just so many things, and I could go on and on and on and on about it, because I get so passionate, because I know what it feels like. I know how horrific it is. And I think about 6 months ago, I saw another little girl. I think it was a little girl. She had swallowed, and luckily she survived. It was pretty much the same kind of thing with Ralphie, and I just thought, how is this still happening? I've done so much work with the CAPT. How is this still happening? Then you think, oh, you know, children are children. Accidents are going to happen. And what I also think people need to get out of their head is, it's bad parenting. It's not bad parenting. These are freak accident. You know, nobody leaves button batteries around for their children. You know, we've gone through the things they're in, what they could be in. Like, I've got a calculator here, and I think they're even in calculators. You know, they're in things that you wouldn't necessarily give your children, but your children could just reach to. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I could go on and on and on and on because I get so passionate about it. But yeah, I think just really emphasising
Hollie,
on the trusting your button battery.
Your passion. Your passion is absolutely infectious. And I don't think Katrina or I could articulate it as passionately as you can. But Katrina, just a final word from you. What would you want parents to take away from listening to today's Family Health podcast?
Know the dangers and look around your home for button batteries. Are they in products? Have you got spare batteries within reach? Put them out of reach of young children. And, you know, a lot of us are already starting to buy children's Christmas presents. You know, look out for easy access button batteries or spare button batteries that might come in the box. Be alert. You know, the question that I ask is, button batteries, where are yours? Because if you know where yours are, you can keep your children safe.
Amazing. Katrina, thank you. Hollie, thank you. And I'm going to do one more call out to our listeners to say that the one thing you can do to help Hollie and Katrina with their messaging is to share this podcast, because I think, Hollie, your story is so powerful that if you're listening to this podcast today and everybody has a parent or a mummy friend, share the podcast and say to them, you need to listen to this Family Health podcast on button batteries because it is so powerful. And let's join the campaign around children's safety. Now, if you want to watch this podcast back, perhaps you want to see what we look like, you can watch it back on our podcast YouTube channel. It's amazing how many people want to watch us. But what it'll also do is you'll see my face reactions to when Hollie was telling her story, and I'm leaning into my microphone because I want to hear and say more to Hollie and Katrina in our conversation today. So you can watch us on podcast. You can also listen to the whole Family Health podcast series on your favourite podcast platform. And please don't forget to share and to comment through social media. And also, finally, last request from us, we like to make sure that we cover lots of family health subjects, the things that are important to you. So if you would like me to talk to a health or wellbeing professional on a subject matter that you feel very passionately about or that you just want to know more about, please don't hesitate to get in touch with the team at Mini First Aid, as we are planning now already for Series 3 and we are wanting to build up our new schedule. So thank you again to Hollie and to gorgeous Ralphie for being part of our story today, and to Katrina from Child Accident Prevention Trust. You've been listening to Family Health by Mini First Aid. Thank you for listening to Family Health by Mini First Aid. I hope you found our podcast really useful and informative. If you want to know more about Mini First Aid classes, courses, qualification courses or first aid supplies, please do visit minifirstaid.co.uk or look us up on all your favourite social platforms at Mini First Aid. As you care for your family's well-being, remember that Unity Mutual believes in enriching lives beyond pounds and pence and is here to support both their health and financial future. Choose Unity Mutual for your junior ISA and you'll not only invest in their dreams but also receive a free mini first aid class. Thanks to Unity Mutual for making it all possible. Until next time, stay informed and financially secure, knowing that your journey with Unity Mutual is about more than just money. It's about nurturing your future and protecting your loved ones every step of the way.